Hey guys, welcome to the channel. I wanted to cover a topic that I think probably has not been covered on our channel before, but it's something that I talk about on my one-to-ones because it is way more common than I think people feel or they know. I face this fear myself as well, and the people that I work with, a lot of them face this fear as well. So I think that it's important to look at it because maybe you are going through this as well. So, but before I go on, please subscribe to the channel. Let us know what you think and ask any questions that you want. If you have any suggestions for topics and whatnot, of course, write them down in the comments and I'll. Because I do look at the comments as well. We all look at the comments and we try to cover those topics as well. What people want to hear on the channel. So either we'll cover it in a in-depth video or we'll cover it in our shorts or something over there. But anyway, so the topic I want to cover today is self-rejection, your fear of you rejecting yourself. I think the main fear with rejection that obviously for good reason that's covered the most is fear of being rejected by your loved ones or by society, right? Your parents, your siblings, your wife or husband, your children, the general public. If you become like some kind of like, if you become known in the city or the town that you live in as a bad person, right? So that's a very common fear with a lot of different themes. But I think the one, and I had that as well, but it wasn't as prevalent. I mean, I had that with specific but very specific people. With, for example, with relationship OCD, with some friendships I had like a fear of them rejecting me or them being upset with me. In some like dating situations, I had a little bit of that. So I definitely had that with, in some areas, but I think if I were to look at in terms of rejection, what fear came up the most for me was me rejecting myself, because I was afraid that I mean this was my thought process. Let me highlight this. My thought process was, sure, other people can reject me and whatnot, that's fine, or even if other people approve of me, great, right? But at the end of the day, I have to be the one to live with myself, and if I don't like myself, how will I ever be happy? Because I'll be living in a constant state of self hate or self dislike, and because I'm going to be so unhappy with myself, I just cannot be in good spirits, right? I'll not be happy within my skin. I'm the one who has to live with this brain, all these memories, all this knowledge that I have about my life, my past, my actions, my behaviors, my bad personality. So if I don't like myself at the end of the day, how can I be happy? Classic fear element of being stuck with the feeling of rejecting yourself for the rest of your life and then never having a good life, right? And the thought process behind that is also like there's a certain responsibility that you have towards your own self, and there's a certain amount of like almost justice that you have to do to yourself. And if you don't act in a just, right, responsible, careful way, well thought out way towards yourself and your life, then you can't live with yourself. That was my thought process, right? So, and that fell into, I mean, forget like my big OCD themes for a second. That went into my life in general, right? So it was then fear of making the wrong decision. Oh, I don't want to make the wrong decision, because if I make the wrong one, then for the rest of my life, I'll keep looking back and regretting it and thinking, I should have known better, I should have known better. And I used to do that, by the way. If I made like a decision that didn't pan out well or it led to, like not some great results, then my immediate reaction wasn't, okay, what can I learn from this and what can I do better in the future? My immediate response was, you shithead, you should have known better. You should have thought it out better. You should have had more common sense when proceeding with this behavior or with this situation. I also come from a family of, I mean, not family. I mean, mainly, I think some of my dad and his peers in my family, I think they they're very risk averse in general, right? I think even though we have like a good family business and everything, but still I think they're when it comes to like making big changes or taking risks, sometimes they can be very averse to that, right? And I think growing up as well, I mean, I've seen my dad like, have this kind of personality as well, where it's like if something goes wrong or if something doesn't go well, his immediate response is, we could have done this or we should have done this, kind of thing. So of course you learn that also by observation, but also you absorb that probably as a personality thing as well. Plus, if I have OCD, then naturally a lot of OCD sufferers can often be risk averse as well. Not always, because then there's some who completely love risky behaviors and that's what they'll chase as a kind of like addictive kind of feeling. But I definitely fall into the category of someone who was risk averse and did not want to make wrong decisions. Plus, I was also like the youngest in the house as well, so it was also that, oh, if I make some kind of mistake, I'll have all these big elders, including my siblings and my parents and other people elder than me. They're going to be telling me I was wrong, and I don't want to, like, and obviously then I will beat myself up if I am wrong then. So, I mean, of course, I mean, it was a little bit of, at the start, it was a little bit of like, okay, what will they think about me and say to me? But as I grew up, I think it was more of a thing of like, I need to be more self assured. So then I would, before making decisions, I would, ask other people. Of course, I would look for a ton of reassurance and be like, hey, what do you think about this? Should I do this? Do you think this is the right move? Because I did not want to have any element of guilt or regret or feeling stupid towards my own self, right? And I like, I think that it was almost like I owe myself uh, sensible decisions and good decisions. Like, it was so much pressure that I was putting on myself towards my own self, for my own self, that it felt like I was just being like, I was cracking under that pressure. And naturally, when I was putting so much pressure, I would end up making more mistakes because of it. And I would make more mistakes, and then it would feel like, see, I would make like a stupid mistake. See, I knew that I would do something like something bad or like make like the wrong choice or whatever it is, and then I was beating myself up for being stupid. And it came to a point where I think I also did not trust my own judgment and my own decisions at all, and I would run them by like my brother or maybe my some of my closest friends and whatnot. I would run everything by them because I'd be like, I need to know someone else also thinks this is a good idea, because at least it would be a verifiable thing rather than me making a decision completely on my own. And I think I really had to, when I was working on OCD recovery, and I recognized that these were also reassurance behaviors outside of my main OCD themes, then I had to really change that, and I had to start making a lot of decisions completely on my own without consulting people. Because even if they ended up being the wrong choice, I had to learn the principle and the spirit of living with my own choices, even if they were wrong or bad. And with every single time I did that, it was also then trying to lean more into not the instinctive reaction of, you stupid dumb person, you should have known better, leaning more towards, okay, what can I learn from this and do differently in the future. And there were many situations like that, by the way, that I had to learn through that. I had to learn this principle the hard way through many situations in my life. Because I also realized that even if I learn a lesson from a certain bad decision, does not mean I'm not going to repeat that bad decision again in the future, right? I think this was very true for example, like I went through. I mean, I've talked about this like very openly in previous videos as well. I experienced like sexual abuse when I was 13, 14 years old, which was obviously like a very difficult experience, and it made a huge impact on me. But as I grew up and I became an adult and I understood what happened, and I understood that, okay, I went through abuse, in my mind I was like, okay, I've come to terms with it, I've accepted that this happened, but I will never let this happen to me ever again. And I think that, I mean, a lot of people who maybe go through like any kind of abusive situation, they probably think that as well. I mean, they're like, I'm never going to let this happen to me, because of course you want to build like a very strong kind of personality, and you want to be this like pillar for your own self kind of thing, right? And then I think sometime in like, I think 2017, or yeah, 2017, I went through this very emotionally abusive situation, right? And I think at the time I was also like seeing a therapist and whatnot, and I think it wasn't the experience. I mean, obviously the experience itself was. I mean, it felt like it completely wrecked me. But I think more than that, like there was another added layer of me really beating myself up, because I was like, I should have known better. I said that I wouldn't let anything like this happen to me ever again. How could I not see it? How did I like let this happen to me? And then I mean, I was really beating myself up for it. Like, and I think, and that this is like way before I was even working on my perspectives in an OCD context. But I think that was a very pivotal moment for me in learning that even if I make some kind of like vow to myself, doesn't mean I'll be able to fulfill it. And also that without even knowing, sometimes I will repeat certain like certain things in my life will be repeated, whether it's due to me or circumstantial or other people doing something to me. I don't have complete control over the fact that I'll not make any kind of mistake again. I'll not. There's no way for me to say that someone else will not do the same thing to me again, because I will. It's too much pressure to put on myself as well, to have insight, foresight, and reflection all at the same time in order to live my life. I mean, when I'm going through a situation, I mean, a lot of times I won't be able to tell. I mean, even if it's not like something abusive, um, I might be going through a situation and not recognize in the moment that this is a really bad situation for me. And I also have to be okay with not knowing in the moment as well, because I can't force insight. I cannot force myself to have an in-depth kind of like reflection on this is what it actually means. A lot of those things come in retrospect, so I had to have a lot of compassion for myself in that moment, for being able to what I saw at the time as a mistake and letting something bad happen to me, despite making that kind of like almost just like promise to myself that I won't ever let this happen to me, right? And this goes across the board. For a lot of people, this latches on to working on OCD recovery itself, because they don't want to make any mistakes. It's like, oh, I know that this is a compulsion and I want to stop it, and I have stopped it. I don't want to do this ever again. But of course, I mean, it's OCD. It's a very stubborn kind of disorder. So you will eventually end up doing a compulsive behavior. You will make a mistake. You will slip up at some point. A little bit of that is part of the journey. Not a little bit, a lot of that is part of the journey. You have to have that compassion for yourself to be able to make that mistake despite having the knowledge that this is going to be super unhelpful for you. um, because all of it is coming from this, again, responsibility to yourself, that I need to do this for me, because if I don't do this the right way, I won't ever be able to look at myself in the mirror with dignity and respect, and be able to live with my choices that I've made, because then I'll be the one responsible for this disastrous kind of life, and I'll have no one else to blame but me. Like, do you see how much of a self-deprecating and how much of an intense kind of mindset you're coming at yourself with? Like, okay, sure, let's say you do owe yourself to work on your mental health and get better, right? But does that have to mean that it comes with no mistakes? Does that mean that it has to be completely smooth sailing, up and up? Think about it. Like, if you are some who if you're, I don't know, studying to be a doctor, let's say, right, one of the most common professions that people are doing, will you always have, despite having completed your degree and having graduated with like really good marks and whatnot and everything, are you always going to make the most correct choice when it comes to your practice? Despite having the knowledge, despite knowing better, you're still going to maybe not have some kind of insight. Maybe you're going to miss something when seeing a patient. Maybe you're not going to be able to diagnose something on time, right? So why not? What? But you can see that in a lot of things in life, like another example that just came to my mind is relationships. Relationships are like classically like you will make a mistake and your partner is going to tell you that this was not okay or this was bad, and you're going to be like, okay, I'm not going to do this again, and a lot of times you will do it again. So there's so many areas of your life where you're probably or you where you probably are already okay with making that mistake over and over again and not like doing right by yourself, but you have compassion for yourself. So why not apply it to also the areas of being able to make mistakes in other areas of your life, even with OCD recovery itself. So I think breaking down the fear of living with regrets, breaking down the fear of not acting responsibly towards yourself, breaking down the fear of having some bad choices on your record. And I think also breaking down the fear of just not liking yourself, because you won't be able to all the time have self love. And this is the other thing. I mean, I don't want to go into this right now because that's a completely separate topic, and we'll probably then end up with like a 40-minute video. But like self love, I think is another like very packaged kind of thing that we see on social media all the time. That you need to have self love for yourself, and I mean, I get that in principle. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it like inherently, but I think at least for OCD sufferers, what I can say is the problem that that notion of self-love promotes is that you have to love each and every single part of yourself, because if you don't love yourself, then that means something is either wrong or something is bad or something, you know, needs some kind of like immediate change. Like you, I mean, come on, like you can't always like yourself all the time, all parts of yourself, physical, mental, emotional. That's really not possible. And also that is essentially what unconditional acceptance is as well, that you can continue to like you can dislike a part of yourself and you can accept that you have a part of yourself that you dislike while still trying to refine it and polish it, you know, even if it takes like years and years to be able to polish that about yourself. So the fear of disliking yourself is not as catastrophic as you think it is right now, because right now what you're doing is then you're using that one mistake or that one thing that you're doing bad towards your own self and then completely just like eradicating any kind of like value or self-worth that you may have as a person in other areas of your life as well. Again, remember, acceptance does not mean like unconditional acceptance like means that you're not equating one thing to the entirety of things. Like this is your mistake in your mind, then that means this is you. But in actuality, this is your mistake, it's part of you, but this is you then. So you both things can coexist. You can like yourself and dislike parts of yourself. Both things. It does not have to be that you have to either completely hate yourself or completely love yourself. Human like the human mind and the human personality and your relationship with yourself is far more complex than just love and hate 100% kind of thing. So again, I think the reason I want to talk about this in the video is because again we always talk about only societal rejection and being rejected by our loved ones, but there's a lot more to that at times where it's also this element of self-rejection, that you're afraid of your own self, you're afraid of your own judgment. By the way, a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, a lot of people who are afraid of their own judgment are also people who are very judgmental towards other people. That is very true. That is very true. Again, not always, but in a lot of cases, that does happen. So I think which is why self-acceptance and other acceptance kind of like are like two sides of the same coin at times, because they really do complement each other, and they kind of like go hand in hand a little bit. So if you're able to then work on being able to accept other people and not judge them that quickly, maybe you can extend that same kind of understanding and rational thinking to yourself as well, and vice versa. So have a think about that. If you have any questions, let me know. Of course, if you have any video suggestions, let me know. And I'm doing the wet hair look because I just like showered as well. So I hope you found that very fashionable as well. But hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.